I know the Catholics say, give me your son by 7 and I'll give you a man. How can other denominations and how can other groups take these children? Did I say that right? Give me your son.
Yes. Yeah, you said it right.
I said it right, okay. They'll be a Catholic, they're going to be a Catholic forever. The question is, why is that? And what are we not doing? Yeah, you on my panel? Okay, yes, sir. I'm sorry. You got your hand up.
I'm going to get him.
From the Gainesville Daily Sun, Thursday, October 22nd, 2015. On average, there are about 2,000 days in a child's life between birth and the first day of kindergarten. About 90% of a child's critical brain development happens in that same time frame. How do they do it? They start early. The young lady on the video there said that her children come in and ask her, Mama, why are we not going to church today? I think, as an educator of over 40 years, that we need to direct our attention to all those young children who sit on the front row, who do everything they can to mimic those men and women they see in our congregation. They sing. They want to be accepted as a child first. Accepted as a child in the church. Why Jesus even said,
You about to go. I need to go back to, thank you, my brother. Thank you. And we're gonna have more time to get into some of that. But my question I want to go back to, and I think we kind of dealt with it, but we're having these young people, some of them have come to church from the time they were born. We were there sometimes with these kids that were born. And they end up graduating from school and you see them no more. What is happening? What are we doing? That's just, in my view, I see it. Am I the only one seeing that? And if it's so, why are we missing? What are we missing? And is it just the parents' fault? I need y'all to help me. Y'all got, anyone grab a mic?
Since I'm opinionated,
you are.
I think I'm not a real big fan of the. I think it's twofold. It's actually threefold. It's us as members of the body. It's the parents, and it's the actual individual, the child themselves. But I think I'm not a big fan of the traditional education system. I'm not a big fan of, I'm gonna take this information, I'm gonna throw it at you, and I expect you to learn it. And one of the things that I do is when they come to my class, I challenge them on everything that they've been taught all the way up, because I want to make everything that you know applicable. I want you to be able to see how stories about Moses, how you can learn from that and apply that to your life. So when we come in, we don't judge, and we have some of the realest lessons and conversations in our class because of that. We don't judge. If you come in there and you may have grown up in the church, but you don't believe that it's only one body that should be saved in. And you guys will probably be surprised if you don't know, a lot of kids don't believe that. They have family members that are in other denominations, and it's just hard for them to believe that. That's honesty. I get it, I understand it, but now let's talk. I need to know where you are. I'm not so much concerned with where you are, but I need to know where you are so we can get you somewhere else. If you're wrong, I want to get you to a place that's right. If you're right, I want to push you further so we can go ahead so you can help somebody else. So I think when we catch them at this young age, I think we need to kind of change and look at adjusting the way that we teach our young kids around that 12-year-old age where their self-image starts to become more important. In the traditional classroom setting, answering questions and being a participant, that's frowned upon. And they associate that with sitting in the Bible class and sitting at church. And so, not being, or not being, participating now, that's the attitude that they come in, they don't want to participate. But no, we don't do that here. I'm going to challenge you. I want you to bring real situations, real scenarios, and we're going to relate and look at how the Bible addressed these issues. So they can learn not only just the scriptures, but learn how to apply it to their situations. And that makes it more engaged because they grow up and they become basically disenfranchised. They're just occupying the seat until they don't have to come anymore. But if we can show them and keep them engaged mentally and stimulate them mentally with the gospel and with the Bible, with the Word of God, then I think we have a better chance of keeping them growing up. And then also showing them, giving them responsibilities that, hey, once you do learn and once you do grow, you have a responsibility to show and teach the next generation behind you. So once you give them those responsibilities, they're more likely to stick around.
If anybody got a question, yes, sir. Got it. Yes, sir.
My question to the panel is, how do we deal with this ever-growing disconnect between the pulpit and the pew concerning our young folk? And I understand home. I'm a proponent that it starts at home. But we're dealing with unchurched. We're reaching out to the unchurched. Those who didn't grow up in the church, those who had no home training, their parents, in fact, were kids when they were born. There's a disconnect somewhere there, and we have not closed it. We're not, somehow or another, we're not reaching. I can appreciate my brother with all of the techniques that he's using and the things that they're implementing. I can appreciate, but there's a serious disconnect, and I'm just wondering, how do we close this gap? How do we reach them? We're afraid of our young folk now. And that fear is causing us more or less to treat them like they're Jehovah's Witnesses or something. We don't want to open the door. We don't want to talk to them. We don't want to. So that's all I'm trying to ask, if someone can understand.
Brother Al, you want to try that one?
Yeah.
You look like you're shaking your head.
Yeah. Yes, with that, I would say, and I'll just talk about for myself, how that I was converted. I didn't grow up in the church. My family didn't have any church affiliation. I'm Al Jackson Jr. Al Jackson Sr. was a bad man. When people said his name, people just scattered because they were afraid he was going to come and hurt somebody. And I was named after him. So what they did for me, Winter Haven at Hilltop, is really, I was on the football field and running track and all those things, and there were brothers in the church that would come out and they would volunteer to coach the track team and volunteer to do these things, and they would grab a lot of us knuckleheads and carry us around doing things with them, and we knew they were from the Church of Christ, and but they could not necessarily talk a lot about the church and open the Bible and read, but they just took an interest in us outside of the church building, outside of those four walls, and that helped me to visit the church and become a part of the church. And I always said that if the Lord blessed me to get to achieve anything and to be able to influence young people, that's what I would do. So it was very important to me in that when I was playing football, that people from the church would come to my games or come and take interest in things that I was doing outside of the church building. So that's what I started doing when I obeyed the gospel and started preaching.
So let me ask you something, Brother Al.
I would say that.
Let me ask you something. I'm going to knock something down. What I'm going to ask you, Brother Al, did you look like a hood rat, or were you dressed well?
No, hood rat.
You look like a hood rat.
Yes.
If someone still took you in and treated you with love.
Right. Didn't talk about my clothes or my hair, didn't do that. So a lot of the things that I've done in Gainesville and Jacksonville, I don't really attack the clothes, I don't attack this immediately, just really deal with the person and take an interest in some things in their lives. So I would say that's one thing we can do. You know, of course, as we said, sometimes it's great parents doing all they can and the child still goes astray. Sometimes bad parents and still have a wonderful child, and sometimes they're in the middle. But I would think one thing we can do is get outside of the pulpit, outside of the four walls, and take an interest in. That's what I do. Well, what do? You play basketball or baseball or whatever, and we try to get involved in that and come to their events and be a part of that. That's one way. That's just one of many ways to just get it started. When they see us at their events, in their minds, from my experience, my small experience, then they are more apt to want to hear us when we say we have something going on or hear something that we have to say. I think building a relationship first before we give them a long list of rules and commandments, I think that's one way to help.
Okay, and I see Brother Freeman writing, so I think he's about to tell me something, right, brother? And then after he tells me, we're going to go to this brother here, then we'll let him have it for a minute, then we'll come back. Okay. Yes, sir?
Certainly, we don't have a panacea here. There are a lot of things, but I think the first thing that we heard somebody in one of the sessions say, the law first mentioned. Let's go back to where this thing started. And we got two sons, Adam and Eve. One's bad and one's good. I think that the list that God gives us on how to raise family in the book of Deuteronomy, right at the breakfast table. Talk about them at lunch, talk about them before you go to bed, put some
fly to where they are. So we've got to know something about them and about what they do. So, you know, I don't like a video like the one we were watching with the bias against hip hop, because whether we like it or not, that's where our children are. And so when hip hop comes on and you turn off the radio or you say, hey, I can't deal with that bumpity bump, well, what you've done is say you can't listen to your child. Now, you say, well, I don't get that. Okay, well, let me help you. Long, tall Sally, she pretty freak, she got everything. And because we're acting like the stuff they're saying is totally new. Barcade, she talks to me with her body. Rick James, she's a very kinky girl. I mean, let me know when I get to yours. Okay. So what I'm saying is, the stuff that the kids are doing is not really all that different than what we were doing, but we've got to learn how to connect what we have in the scripture to where they are and make it meaningful to them. It's not that we don't have the truth. We don't know how to, Jesus used parables and he talked to fishermen, but we're not talking to fishermen. We're not talking to farmers. So our parables have to be something that they can connect with, which means we've got to know something about them and things that's important to them.
So what I'm hearing is, again, we have to go and understand their environment. Every teacher that's teaching our kids, whatever level that they're on, they not only got to know the curriculum, they need to understand the culture that our young people are dealing with. I have another video, it's too long, it's called, and I want you to go out and look at it, called Youth Culture. And one of the things you will say, yes, ma'am. But come on, go back and wait, everybody can give you. Okay.
Darling. My concern is I think we may be going a little further back than where we started from, because I would go back to the stages that we all go through. We go through a prenatal stage, then we come on out to a lot of the real problem is a lack of nurture. That's what the chip is on the show. That's what the not being loved is. We didn't get that nurturing that we should have gotten, and until that stage is fulfilled, it doesn't matter where we go in life. We're gonna still have that problem. So until we fix this basic problem, which is our real foundation, example, we have hyper kids now. They're not really hyper, they're just not understood. They haven't been fulfilled to the point. So nurturing would be.
So the lack of nurturing is what I'm hearing, the lack of nurturing, and I will tell you, there's a lot of studies that says that when we stop breastfeeding our children, we messed up. But I don't breastfeed, so I can't answer that. But I heard.
I appreciate your courage. I appreciate the statement, sister. Education is one of the most critical components to the everyday church organizational infrastructure. Okay? Because what you allow to enter your ears will soon enter your heart. That said, absolutely, education is important in the church, and I agree with you, brothers. I'm reminded of the story with Abraham and got the call from God to sacrifice and kill his son. And what happens oftentimes is what you did at the bottom of the mountain, you can no longer do at the top of the mountain. What happens is he got another word. So what we used to do, you can no longer do it any longer. So that said, it's a dangerous thing to give somebody what you think they need. And I'll take it a little further. It's a dangerous thing to give somebody what they don't need any longer. And so what we have to do is develop a work ethic to investigate and find some concrete clarity as to what our young people need. And once we find out what we need, we can settle what we need to do within the education system.
Didn't that mean it's hard to keep these men going to the solution? But you're right. You're right. You're okay. But let me switch a little bit. You got to think of, I want to go, when we talk about Bible school, I truly believe there are some issues with Bible school. But I think also, I heard young people say, the service is boring. I can't connect with the services. The sermons don't connect with me. I'm disengaged. Help me understand what are some of those. Is that real? And what were some of the issues there?
Sure, it's real. I know the congregation, some of you may know of, and I'm not going to name it, and if y'all hear from them, please don't take this personally, but our young people, for instance, it could be something as very simple as reading books. I've got a child that just graduated high school and is in college now. Toward the end of her career, many of them didn't get textbooks anymore. Everything they did was online, okay? Now, church I was talking about, there's an announcement every Sunday about not having electronic devices. You better have your Bible open and close your pad, close your cell phone. Now, this kid doesn't have a book anywhere they go. Right. Okay, they use.
But let me push back a little bit. Let me push back because I agree with you. I agree with you. But when they have the electronic devices, when I walk over there, they playing a game. Help me. What?
Sure. When you have a book, have you ever had a book inside a book? I used to do that. I used to put, you were looking at one book, you were looking at a cover of a book, thinking that's what I was reading, but I was reading something else on the inside. Y'all ever do that? You got put out of school for that? I was better at it.
We're somewhat delusional. Yeah. We're fooling ourselves. You can't change the life of somebody 1 hour a week. That's right. We frustrate ourselves by what's wrong. You got them 1 hour a week. That's it. Okay. Sometimes that's when they come. Yeah. So how are you gonna have a meaningful impact on anybody's life? Yeah. I don't care what you tell them. Yes. 1 hour a week. What happens to people that impacts them most is what happens at their house. That's it. Or what's reinforced at their house. That's it. So why don't we think about it? Just what the Bible says, charity starts where? Home. It doesn't start at church. Right. We frustrating ourselves, getting angry at ourselves, aggravating ourselves, arguing with ourselves, we ain't doing it. You can't change these young people's life by getting them in a Sunday school class from 9:30 to 9:50. And then you think you're going to put, if they bring a monster to church, a monster going home. Okay, it's not going to happen. So until we change the dynamics, and then sometimes we just unrealistic. Listen, folks, at my church, if I say we're having a retirement meeting for people, nobody under 50 comes. The 18-year-olds ought to be there because that's when you can most affect your retirement. But young people don't think about things the way we think about it. They don't view like, when I said we selling burial plots, you need a, young people don't try to buy no burial plot. They don't think they're going to die. So when you start telling young people, you need to live so you can go to heaven, they say, well, I'm worried about that later on. They're not worried about that right now. So what we have to do is be creative in my, not a solution. But when we think about them, we have to think from their language, their position. And somebody said there, we all been young. Sometimes we just not honest, okay? When we were young, we played chew bubble gum, wrote notes, looked at the girls. We wasn't thinking about what the man's saying in no book. Yeah, I think sometimes we end up overanalyzing. Criticizing ourselves about what is the real issues that's challenging us. I said yesterday, what we learned to do at our church, we don't use a whole lot of Bible, we teach character traits. These young people come to church, they don't know how to talk, they don't know what honesty is, they don't know what integrity is, the young boys don't know what it means to get a job, keep a job. You teach them about Abraham, you need to be teaching them how to get a W-2. Okay, and so because if you don't, now take the Bible and show it, but I think we're Bible heavy instead of teaching young people pragmatism that would benefit where they are now, that would lead them to a greater future.
So when we get to the curriculum tomorrow, and we get with the family tomorrow, be ready, bro, because we need you. When we talk about curriculum and family tomorrow, that's where we want to drill in down on some of that tomorrow, okay? Yes, sir. Now, y'all giving me problems, right? Y'all giving me problems? I need a problem. Okay. Here's a problem.
Here's the mic, bro.
Okay, the mic.
When I recognize myself, the first thing I'm going to do is trying to discover who I really am. I'm learning that the world sees me, and I'm wondering who they think I am. So I got to deal with that. Then I got to learn my environment and how I fit in there. And then I go to church, and I got some people telling me that I should be another way. But that's like 8 or 9 things going on at one time. A more personal step with me to help me discover who I am and how to use that to a more positive growth of me would help me a lot better. Because until then, until you come into my world and know me personally and help me know that these things that I'm adopting or getting rid of are either good or bad for me, you're just kind of talking to me. And you know how sermons go. Sometimes we sit under a good sermon and say, well, he's talking to everybody. He's not really talking to me. And I know some people say, well, oh, he's talking to me, and he didn't know. But for most of us when we were young, we're dealing with so many identity things, and we haven't really identified yet. So we're talking about spiritual things versus who I am in my life as well. So we can kind of know that. Because once I discover who I am and what I want to be, I'm going to learn that all of what I was is in the Bible anyway.
So hey, let me kind of sum up something I heard here. Or maybe I'm just going to add something here. And people at Northside know I say this all the time. We learn to act churchy. And what we do is that we know how to come to church and be churchy. And young people then have to learn how to be churchy instead of real life. And when they get back in the car, we go back to real life. So when that experience we have with them in church is their face that they put on their church suit. And now they take it off when you so I don't really know you. And so I think part of the thing is we don't really know these young people that we're trying to affect their lives.